Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Share the screen. Here we are, climbing the ladder of consciousness.
Yes, Bodhinath.
Very good. And we're all the way up to part 12. Starting with Gurudeva's Merging with Shiva lesson 359 on impetuous impatient. The final goal of human life is realization and liberation. Realization of the absolute unmanifest Parashiva, Nirguna Brahman, and liberation from birth. This realization cannot be brought about solely by an effort of the mind, by any discipline or method. Sadhana and tapas and bhakti are necessary for purifying the mind and body in preparation for God realization. But it is by the grace of the Satguru that it is attained. The North American Hindu, and in these words we include the Indian Hindu who lives in America, whether in the first generation, the second, the third, or the fourth. This applies to anyone who lives in a Western country, often wants to begin at the end of the path rather than at the beginning. There is a distinct lack of patience on this side of the planet. Our desire, our lack of knowledge, which breeds undue desire, impels us beyond our abilities and before our time. We want everything right now. We are impatient and perhaps unwilling to wait for the natural fulfillment of desire, for the natural unfoldment of the soul. We seek to force it, to strive for greater attainments than we are prepared to sustain. We want illumination, and we want it now. But results cannot be obtained unless we have the patience to begin at the beginning and to follow through systematically. We must take one step and then another. There are no shortcuts to enlightenment, but there are detours. Impatience with the natural process is one of them. If you find a green melon in an open field, will it help to expose it to more sun, to more heat? Will it ripen faster and taste sweeter? No, it will not. It ripens from the inside out. The process cannot be forced. The melon will grow ripe without intervention. Similarly, the soul will mature in its time. I am not saying that you should not strive, should not make even greater inner efforts. I am saying that impatient striving, the kind of striving that puts aside all common sense and says, I am going to get realization no matter what, is itself an obstacle to that realization, which is not as something to get. That would be a good question I didn't ask. Why is it not something to get? Because you already have it, you just don't know where it is. Hindus in the West have much to learn from Hindus in the East when it comes to contentment with their karma and dharma. We must work to perfect an inner serenity that can accept spending a lifetime or several lifetimes in search of truth, that can accept that some of us are by our nature and unfoldment better suited to service and devotion, and others to yoga and the various sadhanas. This is a far more enlightened perspective Then the Western notion, which subtly maintains that there is but a single life in which all the final goals must be reached. The eternal path, the Sanatana Dharma, has been well charted by the great illumined minds, developed minds, spiritually unfolded minds, realized minds on this planet. No one can skip, avoid, evade, or abstain from any part of that path. As Euclid could find for his impatient crowned pupil no special royal road to geometry or philosophy, so there is no privileged royal road to spiritual illumination. Similarly, a marathon runner cannot begin the race 20 miles from the starting point. A mountain climber cannot refuse to climb the lower, perhaps less challenging cliffs. The natural laws known to all men do not allow it. The natural law known to himself, his own conscience, does not allow it. It is the same on the spiritual path. The eternal spiritual path, the way of God, is broad. It accepts all and rejects none. No matter where a seeker is in his inner development, the eternal path embraces and encourages him. If he is a simple man, the path for him is simple, unsophisticated, answering the needs of his everyday life, yet opening him to more and more subtle ways of worship and living. If he is an advanced soul, a mature soul, he will find within Hinduism the Sanmarga, the pure path to the Absolute. And we have a story. So this idea has actually happened to me quite a few times. Idea of impatience. Usually Hindus somewhere in their 60s, all of a sudden, they're in a rush to achieve moksha. The individual, he or she hasn't been that spiritual or religious so far in life, but now wants to rush to moksha in the last 20 years of life or so. So it actually happens. It's a state of mind that Hindus end up in, at least in Western countries. So I have to basically say what Gurudeva said in a friendly way, that it's not something you can rush. It just has its own timing. And the phrase I use to try and, one of the phrases I use to try and convey that is, making as much progress in one life as our karma and dharma permits. That's all we can do, really. Karma keeps coming at us. Sometimes it takes a lot of time just to handle the crazy things that come at us because of our past unwise actions. So that's limiting how much time we can put in on our spiritual disciplines. And then our duties in life, you know, if we have 6 children, it's quite different than if we have 1 child. Obviously, the children are going to take a lot more time, and we can't spend a lot of time doing things without them, particularly when they're younger. So the karma and dharma defines a range of progress we can make. And we want to hit the high end of the range, to make as much progress as possible, not be content to just make a small amount of progress, but challenge it and make as much progress as possible in each lifetime. And we get a question. Why is Hinduism so complex? Why couldn't it be simpler? Give you a second on that one. I'll tell a story. Happened quite some time ago, somewhere in Tamil Nadu. Recollection is a bit vague, but it wasn't in a big city. It was out in the country. We'd been invited by a Swami to visit him, and he had his simple ashram there. And he was sharing some wisdom that his guru gave to him on this very question: why is Hinduism so complex? And the answer he gave is, well, it's not really complex in the sense of rocket science. It's broad in the sense of having lots of different approaches. Broader than any other religion. And why is that? Because it has a path for every individual, no matter where they are in their unfoldment, no matter how sophisticated or how simple they are. There's practices that they can do. So when you encompass the entirety of humanity in a religion, you have to have lots of different approaches, or it has to be very broad. So Hinduism is complex in the sense of being broad, so it can encompass all of humanity. Moving on. Oh, we have a topic on happiness, an alternative to happiness. We looked at this topic last year, focusing on the idea that we can experience a permanent happiness by living in our soul consciousness. Today, we're looking at the same material, but we're going to tie it in with our current topic of climbing the ladder of consciousness. So we're not focusing on the happiness aspect of it per se. We're focusing on other aspects. It's going to tie in quite nicely. You will recall at the beginning of this series on climbing the ladder of consciousness, there was an emphasis on stabilizing awareness in the Muladhara Chakra so that we don't experience the lower chakras of fear, anger, and jealousy. So that's the first point of stability we're trying for. The first of the 7 major chakras, memory. So in this chart, it's called number 8 because there's 7 below it. I'm going to call it the 8th chakra, or the first principal chakra, first higher chakra. This is taking that idea to a higher level, which is to stabilize awareness in the 4th chakra, also called the 11th, the Anahata. In other words, the idea that is, instead of striving to experience the top 3 chakras of Vishuddha, Ajna, or Sarasvara, make your focus experiencing the Anahata Chakra of direct cognition. And after that, the gradual mastery of living in it throughout the entire day. Whatever challenging situation we encounter should not cause us to fall below the Anahata Chakra. So it's a similar idea to being stable in the Muladhara Chakra. Nothing makes us angry. Whatever experience happens, we don't fall below the Muladhara into anger, or the one above it, fear, or the one below it, jealousy. We're stable enough that we can handle the challenges, the stresses, and maintain Muladhara Chakra. So this is taking it up a level to the Anahata Chakra and saying, well, we need to do the same thing there. Once we learn to experience it in our morning disciplines, we need to learn to sustain it. And the same idea, we need to learn to study what throws us below it, what challenges cause us to drop below the chakra of direct cognition. Because we'll see a pattern. It's the same type of things that happen every week that would cause us to drop below direct cognition, and we can find alternate ways of responding to them that doesn't cause us to drop below. Well, that's the idea. If asked, is your life focused on pursuing happiness, many people will readily say yes. If asked, have you found and been able to sustain that happiness, the same people would likely confess they have not. Hinduism directly addresses the fleeting nature of happiness. Gurudeva stated, true happiness and freedom cannot be found in the world. For earthly joy is inextricably bound to sorrow, and worldly freedom to bondage. Like a coin has two sides. The Mundaka Upanishad presents this truth in a story. Two birds, united always and known by the same name, closely cling to the same tree. One of them eats the tree's sweet fruit while the other looks on without eating. The bird enjoying the fruit represents the Jivatma, the embodied soul, and the bird simply witnessing represents Paramatma, the transcendent self. The story continues. While enjoying the fruit, the first bird moans, bewildered by his limitations. But when he beholds the other, the glorious Lord worshipped by all, he becomes freed from sorrow. It's a nice picture. In these verses, the Vedas indicate a way to overcome the cycle of joy and sorrow, happiness and sadness that we experience when living in our outer instinctive intellectual consciousness. It is overcome by becoming aware of our innate divinity and abiding in spiritual consciousness. Paramaguru Yogaswami describes this in one of his Nachindanai songs. Joy and sorrow both are Maya. The Atma, never from love divided, is the very form of knowledge. Therefore, these two will not touch you. Can a mirage wash away the earth? At the gracious holy feet of the true all-knowing Guru, to the limit of your power, let your heart grow soft and melt. Very sweet. Let's imagine that we can step inside ourselves, deep into our spiritual nature. Let's imagine further that this journey consists of 4 steps. After taking those 4 steps, we find ourselves immersed in endless inner space, pure awareness and the transcendent source of that awareness. This is the realm of the deepest samadhis. 3 steps within takes us to the level of brilliant inner light and the possibility of visions of deities and rishis. 2 steps brings us to the level of divine love for all beings. 1 step inward takes us to a consciousness that is content, creative, and intuitive. Initially, it could be frustrating to try to take 4, 3, or even 2 steps within, as we are not yet able to move to those rarefied levels. A more practical approach is to master taking the first step within during our early morning sadhana time, and strive to hold that creative consciousness throughout the day. The other steps are always there, awaiting our future mastery. Our analogy of 4 steps, which relates directly to the chakras. Our analogy of 4 steps within relates directly to the chakras. So we know what the chakras are. There's 7 primary. First 3 relate to the instinctive intellectual mind, which is being experienced by the fabled bird who is enjoying the tree's fruits. Okay, question. Give a 1-word description of the basic nature of each of the first 3 higher chakras. This one's easy. First chakra, located at the base of the spine, is the Muladhara, which governs memory. Well, memory is the 1 word. Second chakra, Swadhisthana, below the navel, governing the realm of reason. Third is the Manipura, solar plexus, center of willpower. So memory, reason, willpower. Easy to remember. Willpower can also be two words. Confusing. Without going within, it is natural to live our daily life in the confines of these first three chakras, rarely experiencing anything beyond them. So that's where lots of people live. They don't go higher. Give a two-word description of the basic nature of each of the higher chakras 4 through 7. The fourth chakra, Anahata at the heart, the center of direct cognition. What's the two words? Is the realm we experience by taking the first step within. It is referred to in scriptures as the lotus of the heart. The fifth chakra, Vishuddha at the throat, the center of divine love, is the realm experienced when we take the second step within. The sixth chakra, Ajna at the third eye, the center of divine sight, is experienced when we take 3 steps within. Seventh, Sarasvara, located at the crown of the head, the center of illumination. And the second word is godliness. Illumination, comma, godliness is experienced when we take the 4th step within. Let's explore what we experience when we take the first step within and function in the Anahata Chakra. Gurudeva described it as the realm of artists, inventors, creators of all kind. Each time you design or create anything, you are bringing the beauty of the within through your nerve system into manifestation. It is a beautiful place to be, and you can be here all of the time by feeling the power in your spine. The minute you feel that radiant energy, you disconnect from instinctive intellectual consciousness and soar into inner consciousness. A few minutes of breath control will help you to feel the energy in the spine. One simple technique is to breathe 9 counts in, hold 1 count, then breathe out 9 counts, and again hold 1 count. That's the basic form of pranayama we do during a meditation. After a few minutes of this pranayama, become aware of the spine and the spiritual energy within it. Visualize a clear tube in the center of your spine being filled with yellow light coming down from the top of your head. Then inwardly see this pure life force flowing through the spine and out into the nerve system. Having begun our day in a consciousness of contentment, creativity, and intuition, we can soon encounter the many ways that it can be lost. So what are some suggestions? How can we sustain the sublime state we achieve by taking 1 step within? Some suggestions of what to do and what not to do throughout the day that are supportive of sustaining it. So the next few slides give us some suggestions. Basic suggestion is first, the most basic requirement is following the yamas, Hinduism's ethical restraints. Adharmic actions such as lying and hurting others disturb the mind and emotions and draw us out into the swirl of external consciousness. Not letting disagreements turn into arguments is also crucial. Disagreements are natural, but they should be handled in an intelligent and harmonious way. We must always be willing to compromise to keep discussions from turning into conflicts. Domestic arguments are the most destabilizing. A major cause of such strife is the misguided view that the home is a natural place to let off steam, to vent frustrations that have built up through the day at work or school. For the sake of harmony, we must change that approach and instead consider the home a sanctuary for the entire family, never regarding it as a place where we can upset others with our emotions. Gurudeva insisted that the home should have an even higher standard of propriety than the office, the factory, or the corporate workplace. So not a lower standard, but a higher standard, because we're trying to generate a spiritual vibration in the home, which we're not trying to do in the other places. To avoid contention in the home, we can choose other ways to throw off stress. Walk through a park or along a beach, visit a yoga studio or workout facility, or stop to pray at a temple on the way home. Every day, we are assaulted by a barrage of advertisements promising greater happiness if we acquire whatever they are promoting. This constant enticement presents a major challenge to sustaining a contented consciousness. Fancy new cars, faster computers, attractive clothes all promise the ever-elusive state of mind called happiness. We can rise above this false allure by holding the perspective that we are content with what we currently have. If we acquire something new, it will not be because we think it will make us happier, but because it will benefit our family in a meaningful way. Gratitude is an important aspect of holding an inner consciousness. Key to nurturing gratitude is giving thanks for all the good things in our life. We are grateful for our family and friends, grateful for our job, our school, grateful for the home we live in, grateful for the wisdom and practices of our religion. And we have the affirmation. We've done this one quite a few times. I'm all right right now. It's a way of feeling content. Gurudeva states, we can perform this excellent practice now and again throughout the day. Practice it by asking yourself, am I not all right right now, right this instant? And answer, I'm all right right now. Keep asking and answering until you feel positive, self-assured, and centered in the Anahata Chakra. When we look at the world as providing our happiness, life is a constant series of emotional ups and downs. When we derive our contentment from within, life is joyous, and we can share that joy with others. So that's the idea. It's not that we're becoming stoic or something. It's the idea that we don't look at our source of happiness as possessions or people. We look at our source of happiness as our soul, and then we share that happiness with the people we normally interact with. As a final thought, I would like to mention a secondary idea for tying this presentation to our current topic of climbing the ladder of consciousness. From a stable base of direct cognition, we can realistically strive to experience now and then the three higher chakras of divine love, divine sight, and illumination, with the idea of returning afterwards to our stable home base of direct cognition. In other words, we are still trying on occasion to experience them, but our main focus is on never falling below the Anahata. For example, a really powerful festival day puja might bring us up a chakra or two. But then that wears off in a few hours. Or we're in a nice quiet place, we have an unusually deep meditation. Same experience, and by the end of the day, it's not there anymore. So we don't want to, the idea is not to say we'll never strive for the higher chakras. It's not something we're making it a secondary goal. Chakras above the Anahata. Primary goal is first stabilize ourselves in the Muladhara, and when we're really good at that, stabilize ourselves in the Anahata. Oh, we have our second topic, personal testimonies. Anahata Gupta. In 2003, the Hindu American Foundation conducted its annual essay contest, in which young writers were asked how the following quote from Swami Vivekananda inspired them to be Hindu American advocates. Quote, "The intensest love that humanity has ever known has come from religion. And the most diabolical hatred that humanity has known has also come from religion. Nothing makes us so cruel as religion, and nothing makes us so tender as religion." So at this time, Anahata Gupta was age 17, a junior at A&M Consolidated High School in College Station, Texas. Mata, Pita, Guru, and Devam are the 4 words that my Guruji raised me with. Always respecting my mother, father, teacher, and God is a belief that has been inculcated in me from a young age. From going to Bala Vihar classes on Sunday to Shloka classes on Wednesday, Hinduism has been with me every step of the way. My Guruji would always end the class with, "Be proud of who you are, be proud to be a Hindu." Growing up in a strong Christian city where there are churches every half mile, I'm often faced with difficult situations that only my faith has helped me to overcome. From my classmates demeaning my 4th grade Kathak dance at our school's talent show, to the look of disgust when I tell them that I do not eat beef. Texas is known for its beef. So. Staple food eaten by most Texans, I have become stronger as a Hindu throughout each and every obstacle. I have seen throughout my lifetime how religion has changed people, broken friendships, and ultimately made others feel insecure of their lifestyle. My childhood friends, whom I used to see at Shloka class, now call themselves atheists in an attempt to fit in at our high school. When I inquired about the reason for such a drastic conversion, they said they could not take the isolation anymore. Social isolation of Hindus being such a small percentage of students in the school. At that moment, I realized I have been blessed with a rare and accepting group of friends who have never imposed their faith on me. They have come to the temple with me for celebrations such as Holi and Diwali, and constantly want to know more about Saraswati, Ganesha, and the other gods they see at my house. These, of course, are non-Hindu friends. Because of my friends for these past few years, I have been oblivious to the outside world where many people are not so accepting of other religions. In December 2012, we organized an Indian Day at school. Hindi music played through the intercom. People of different races wore kurtas and churidars borrowed from their Indian friends, and after school we had samosas for those who participated. This was a proud day for many of us Hindus because we were able to show our culture to others in our school. Religion should not be something that separates people, but rather something that inspires others, different and alike, to come together and learn more about each other. In the 12th grade levels, In the 12 grade levels of school, there are 2 grades, 6th and 10th, where we learn about the main world religions. This is what's called the textbook controversy in the U.S. I noticed that both times we spent a week on Christianity, 4 days on Islam, 3 days on Judaism and Buddhism, and only 1 day on Hinduism. On that 1 day of Hinduism, we watched a 50-minute video that focused only on the caste system. Typical. While watching that video, I realized that this is where people base their views of Hinduism, in an obsolete caste system that is denounced by most Hindus. With such inadequate and biased knowledge, when my classmates even confuse Hinduism and Islam, I cannot blame them. After watching the video again in the 10th grade, I talked to my teacher about spending another day learning about the real aspects of Hinduism that are still in practice today. To my surprise, she assigned a project to all of the students the following day, which focused on India's many ancient discoveries. I was able to pick and present both the inner and outer discoveries made by Hindus. I was able to tell my classmates how the concepts of karma and dharma are essential to Hinduism, as well as the ideas behind reincarnation and moksha. Hinduism impacts the everyday choices we make in life through verses in the Vedas. Sayings like those found in the Taittiriya Upanishad Yajurveda, such as Satyam Vada, meaning speak the truth, and Atita Devo Bhava, meaning let your guests receive from you hospitality like a god, are beliefs that Hindus follow daily. After reading Swami Vivekananda's quote, I have been inspired to initiate more Indian days and other events to spread the knowledge about true Hinduism. By dancing at events for the past few years, such as the Brazos Valley World Fest and Cry India, I have been able to share with the community my culture and religion. Now as I go into my junior year at school, I wake up every morning, get dressed, and just before I leave my house, I put vibhuti on my forehead and go to school. Initially, people would tell me I had white stuff on my forehead, but after explaining to them that I am fully aware of it and that it is part of my religion, the questions eventually stopped. As I grow up, my friends will change, my schools will change, and my future may change. However, my religion will never change. I will always be able to say, I am proud to be a Hindu. That's a really strong one. Om. Om.